What if the person you show the world is only half of who you truly are? That confident, kind, and capable person you present at work, with friends, and on social media, what if it's a carefully crafted mask, a brilliant performance you've perfected over a lifetime? And what if, behind that mask, there's a part of you that you've pushed down into a deep, dark basement, a side filled with your insecurities, your secret resentments, your unacceptable desires, and your most profound fears? The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung had a name for this hidden part of our personality. He called it the shadow. And his most radical idea wasn't just that everyone has a shadow, but that ignoring it, pretending it doesn't exist, is the single biggest obstacle to living a truly authentic and powerful life. It's the invisible force that sabotages our relationships, stifles our creativity, and keeps us feeling like an imposter in our own skin. In this video, we're diving into 5 of Jung's most profound lessons on how to stop running from your shadow and start embracing it. This isn't about becoming a darker person, it's about becoming a whole person. And the final lesson, in particular, is a secret to unlocking a level of creativity and personal freedom you may have never thought possible. The first, most crucial step is simply to acknowledge the shadow's existence. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. Jung believed that from a very young age, we become little detectives of social approval. We learn which parts of ourselves are good and will be rewarded with love and acceptance, and which parts are bad and will lead to punishment, ridicule, or disapproval. The good parts form our persona, the acceptable, polished social mask we wear. Everything else, our rage, our envy, our vulnerability, our wildness, gets shoved into the dark basement of our psyche, forming the shadow. Think about it. Maybe as a child, you were told that being angry was unacceptable, that nice girls don't shout or big boys don't cry. So, you learned to suppress your anger, to always be the calm, agreeable one. Or perhaps you had a natural, boisterous creativity that was dismissed as being too much or distracting, so you learned to be quiet and conventional. That anger, that sadness, and that wild creativity didn't just disappear. They went into the shadow, waiting. A real-life example is the classic people pleaser. On the surface, they are the nicest person you'll ever meet. They say yes to every request, they never cause conflict, and they always have a smile on. This is their persona, perfected for maximum social harmony. But internally, what's happening? They might feel a growing, gnawing resentment. They feel taken for granted, exhausted, and silently furious that their own needs are never met. That resentment, that fury, that is the shadow, banging on the basement door, demanding to be heard. The first lesson is simply to stop pretending you don't hear the noise. It's admitting, yes, there is a part of me that feels angry, or jealous, or selfish, even if I don't act on it. It's the quiet, courageous admission that you are more complex than the simple, happy story you tell the world. From there, we learn to observe the shadow through projection. This is where Jung's work gets really interesting and a little uncomfortable. He said that we rarely see our own shadow directly. It's too well hidden. Instead, we see it, with glaring clarity, in other people. This is called projection. The things that trigger an intense, almost irrational emotional reaction in you when you see them in others are often signposts pointing directly to your own disowned traits. The psychology here is a clever trick of the mind. Your ego can't stand the internal conflict of having a trait it considers bad. So, it finds that trait in someone else and attacks it there. It's a way of fighting your own inner demon on an external battlefield where you feel righteous and justified. Imagine your mind is a movie projector. The film reel contains all your repressed qualities. Instead of watching the movie yourself, you project it onto the screen of another person and then critique the film as if it has nothing to do with you. Imagine you have a coworker who you find incredibly arrogant. They're always talking about their accomplishments, and it drives you absolutely mad. You might complain to others, "Can you believe how full of himself he is?" Now, Jung would invite you to pause and ask a difficult question. Is there a part of you that longs to be more confident, to own your successes, but you suppress it because you're terrified of being seen as arrogant? Your intense annoyance is a clue. The coworker is simply living out a part of your own shadow that you've refused to acknowledge. Or think about someone you judge for being lazy or unproductive. Does their relaxation and lack of urgency make your skin crawl? Perhaps it's because you relentlessly push yourself, terrified of being seen as worthless if you're not constantly achieving. Their laziness is a mirror to the part of you that is desperate for rest, a part you've labeled as unacceptable. Observing your projections isn't about excusing other people's behavior, it's about using your intense emotional reactions as a diagnostic tool for your own inner world. The bigger the reaction, the more likely it is that you've struck shadow gold. And this leads us to the most transformative lesson, finding the gold in the darkness. Jung famously said, "In the shadow is the gold." He believed that the parts of ourselves we repress are not inherently evil. They are simply powerful, raw, and unrefined energy. When we push them into the dark, they fester and become destructive, like a plant that grows twisted and pale without sunlight. But if we bring them into the light of our awareness, we can refine them and use their power for good. Every negative trait has a positive side, a golden potential. Think of it like this: the shadow is a block of raw, potent energy. In the dark, it's just a clumsy, heavy force that trips us up. But when you bring it into the light of your awareness, you can start to chisel away, and what you might find inside is a masterpiece of strength and vitality. Let's take anger. Suppressed anger becomes passive aggression, bitterness, or unexplained physical tension. But what is the gold in anger? Anger is pure energy for setting boundaries. It's the fuel that says, "No, that's not okay." It's the passion that drives us to fight against injustice. Someone who has integrated their anger doesn't walk around yelling at everyone. They are simply someone who can say no calmly and firmly, who can stand up for themselves and others without losing control. The gold is assertiveness. What about greed? In its shadow form, it's a destructive desire for more. But what's the gold? The energy of greed is the root of ambition. It's the drive to build, to create, to achieve something great. When integrated, it's not about hoarding resources, but about having the ambition to create a successful business that employs people or to build a life that provides security for your family. The gold is aspiration. Even a trait like fear has its gold. In the shadow, fear paralyzes you. But its positive side is prudence, caution, and the ability to plan ahead and assess risk. By facing your shadow, you're not accepting that you're a bad person. You're reclaiming the raw power you've been hiding from yourself. Once you've acknowledged the shadow and started looking for the gold, the next step is to have a dialogue with it. This might sound strange, but it's a powerful technique Jung called active imagination. The goal is to stop treating your shadow as a monster to be slain and start treating it as a lost and misunderstood part of yourself that needs to be heard. It's about shifting from a position of conflict to a position of curiosity. Instead of shouting, "Go away, anxiety," you learn to ask, "Hello, anxiety, what are you trying to protect me from today?" Instead of fighting your inner critic, you ask it, "What are you so afraid will happen if I'm not perfect?" You can do this in a few practical ways. You could try journaling, writing a letter from your shadow's perspective. What would it say if it had a voice? What does it want? What does it fear? You might be surprised at the answers. That lazy part of you might write, "I'm not trying to ruin your life. I'm just terrified that if we keep working this hard, we're going to burn out completely. I'm trying to save us." Another way is to personify it. Give your inner critic a name and an image. Maybe it's a grumpy old teacher named Mr. Grumbles or a nervous little creature. When you feel its presence, instead of letting it take over, you can step back and say, "There's Mr. Grumbles again. Okay, what's on your mind today, buddy?" This process does something remarkable. It separates you from the shadow trait. You are not your anxiety, you are the one who is observing the anxiety. This creates the psychological space needed to understand its message and integrate its energy, which leads us to the final, crucial lesson. The ultimate goal of shadow work is not to eliminate the shadow. That's impossible, and trying to do so only makes it stronger, like a cornered animal. The goal is integration. Integration means bringing the shadow's qualities out of the darkness and into your conscious life, but in a healthy, balanced, and productive way. It's about becoming whole. Annihilation is trying to kill your anger. Integration is learning to use your anger to set healthy boundaries. Annihilation is trying to destroy your fear. Integration is listening to your fear's wisdom to make better decisions. It's a dance, not a war. Let's go back to our people pleaser from the first point. For years, they tried to annihilate their shadow, the part of them that felt selfish and angry. They just tried to be nicer. But it didn't work, they just became more resentful and passive-aggressive. The path of integration looks different. After acknowledging their resentment, observing how they judge assertive people, realizing the gold in their anger is the power to have their own needs met, and having a dialogue with that resentful part, they are ready for integration. Integration doesn't mean they suddenly become a jerk. It means the next time their boss asks them to stay late for a non-urgent task, they can access that shadow energy. Instead of automatically saying yes while seething inside, they can pause, access that reclaimed power, and calmly say, "I understand this is important, but I have a prior commitment tonight. I can get to it first thing in the morning." They haven't annihilated the nice persona, and they haven't been consumed by the angry shadow. They have integrated them. They've created a new, more whole version of themselves, someone who is both kind and has boundaries. This is true authenticity. It's the freedom to access all parts of yourself and choose how you want to act, rather than being unconsciously driven by the parts you repress. Embracing your shadow is a lifelong journey, not a destination. It's about peeling back the layers of who you think you should be, to discover the incredible depth of who you actually are. It's a path that leads away from the fragile perfection of the persona and towards the resilient wholeness of the self. By facing the parts of you that you've hidden away, you don't become darker. You become brighter, because you are no longer wasting enormous amounts of energy holding down a part of your own soul. You reclaim that energy and can use it to build a more honest, courageous, and complete life. Remember, this journey is deeply personal, and this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Exploring these parts of yourself can be challenging, and it's always okay to seek support from a professional if you need to. The path to wholeness is a brave one. And now, I have a question for you. Thinking about your own life, which shadow quality, maybe a flash of envy, a moment of anger, or a judgment you've made about someone else, do you now wonder might hold a hidden gift? Share your insights in the comments below. Reading through the experiences of others is one of the most powerful ways we can all learn and grow together.